Hey you guys, it's MJ from Ultra Love. I'm not feeling like in a mega high vibrashe kind of mood this morning, but I did feel like discussing just an insight I got literally like as I was doing a Facebook share on Ultra Love Facebook. And then I was moving along the theme of patterns, and there is an abstraction, like a mental abstraction one must take out, because you're essentially really removing your mind from like linear analysis. So no longer are, like, we're not moving along in a straight line, we're walking in a spiral. It's a spiral dynamic, and so patterns are inherent in the spiral of evolution. Obviously we're going round, and the releasing of the pattern is, yes, both an individual thing and a collective thing. What? Okay, and so like the way I'm feeling it is basically, and like this is Ultra Love Mish essentially, and like part of my peculiar perspective throughout my life of having this visceral knowing that the planet was going through a paradigm shift. And like other people weren't aware of that. And they're like, but it has to move up the scale. So basically, in a divine way, all of humans were like, okay, let's go explore this earth realm and experience moving into a more expanded awareness from a more limited one. And how do we sort of process and integrate, and also have a deeper understanding? Because we like the intellect, we like having free will, we like having this mental capacity in mind. So patterns are a part of our ability to more deeply understand the process of transformation, shape-shifting. Same, I get them as well. And here's the thing about the patterns as well, like patterns are totally unique. My pattern's different from your patterns, which then goes to task around projections, and like patterns are projections and projections are patterns. And it's to do with the density it's really just to do with density. It's not really like right or wrong or good or bad or false or not false, because everything in essence is a projected illusion, whether it's a nice one or a not so nice one, whether it's a comfortable one or not so comfortable one. And the reason we have cause and effect or karma is literally just to biofeedback to us the density, i.e. less than desirable versus moving into more desirable, which again, for all of us, we all have different themes and challenges that we're working with. If you're seeking the pattern or not. Yeah, because I would say it's like maths or sacred geometry or just geometry, right? Patterns are inherent in the makeup of existence. Hi, Lorna. So yeah, I'm like, people can live in, and this is something as well. Like I talk about this in the book. It's fairly relevant for people to say, like, okay, you have a pattern where you brush your teeth every morning. You have a pattern where you might have coffee most mornings. You have a pattern of going to work. You have a pattern. So we tend to, in the 3D construct, we tend to focus on the physical patterns we have. And then for me personally, I was thinking, oh, how do I like deconstruct the physical patterns? And willpower never worked for me in the physical sense of just stop drinking or just stop eating so much. I personally, it never really aligned with me. I was like, there's got to be kind of something deeper, higher, whatever. So then I just started to look at emotional patterns. I started to look at the emotional trigger points. I started to look at the emotion attached to the pattern. And then ultimately, once I dealt with the emotion, the physical impulse to act out a certain pattern fell away. And that is, to me, also part of the practice of yoga, meditation, and mindfulness, is that you're not really focused on the kind of the physical reality in such a dense way. You're focused on the energetic reality. You're focused on dense emotions that are popping up and linking into your physical. And that's personally where I am now with like the Saturn stuff and the restructuring. I'm in this really bizarre phase of suddenly going, holy shit, these patterns are all attached to this person, and I can feel them in my body, and I don't want to really give them much focus anymore, but I have to hold space as we're in it, as we're moving through it. And I would say part of the biofeedback reflection of having an online community is the fact that y'all reflect back, moving through similar densities, moving through the goo, moving through I'm just in the shits, or I'm in the density, or da da da. And I say, well, because we're one being, restructuring and moving through our own personal, karma and challenges on a certain density bandwidth, and then we're going to be moving up into a new one. And I think on an intuitive level, a lot of us have an awareness of what that is, of collaboration, working together, investing in property, investing in projects, that there is an integrated and aligned sense of what that co-creation looks like in a mastermind. And yet we still have to be able to transform the base tone. We still have to, in our awareness, have to be able to transform all the unworthiness, all of the guilt, all of the shame, all of the right. I.e., we don't each time we have an opportunity to look at a pattern, it is a little bit different. And yet energetically it can feel very much the same as 20 years ago, even. Like, holy shit, I didn't even realize that was there. Or I never thought that I'd be carrying that. I never, and it, we want it to, I'm trying to think of like the last time this pattern, I was pretty much in this pattern for like 4, 5, 6 months at the beginning of this year. And then there was like a relief sort of from June, and then structures started to implement, more dynamism was becoming obvious, certain huge patterns were released, and then there's like another shapeshift, another go round. And sometimes I just feel you go around again to be like, are you sure? Are you sure you want to rise into this? Are you sure you're ready to be this? Are you sure you're, ready to own this, that, and the other? And then ultimately, because you've risen, the old pattern feels that much more dense. It's the same pattern. It feels more dense. So you're like, no, I'm definitely ready to let that one go. So each time pattern comes up, regardless of how we're connecting to the pattern, whether it's a physical thing, again, in my awareness, the physical is always connected to an emotional feeling in the body kind of thing. And waves, July, August, huge waves, huge shifts in July, August, I feel. Hi, John Beanie, how are you? So each review is a release to a certain degree, and then a rising. And it's like from Adrienne Elise, when she talked about like turning a corner. It's kind of, and it makes sense to me that it's darkest before the dawn. I'm so dense and heavy with this pattern these last few weeks, and like really getting to the end of like, I'm so over it. Like, I'm so over it. But I think sometimes we have to go through this to be really done with it, so that we can really embrace the new energies and the new patterns that we're endeavoring to create. Hey, Lori. Andy, yeah. And I think that's the nice bit of having like community on this level, is like It's got to be fully cleared. Yeah, and it is again, it's energetic. It's emotional. It's all of it. I'm not necessarily wanting to prioritize, but let's be honest, the emotional is the deeper layer of the guidance system, which ultimately, like in a really simple sense, that's all the shift is. The paradigm shift is prioritizing the physical world into beingness, prioritizing the beingness, which is the emotionality that we are. Once we can prioritize the emotionality, we have a much greater chance of being joyful beings, being happy, joyful beings, being all of us being able to hold space for that depth and polarity and healing crisis of the mass, basically. Yeah, and Andy, it's making me think as well of how I really love being in unconditional love when it comes to all habits and patterns, like reemerging into groups of collectives that drink, like I'm moving away from the well-being industry and like moving back into just like 3D paradigm where it's super duper normal to drink, and yet embracing the fact that like people are cool, and I'm still working with my smoking habits and stuff. It's just that I still work with the polarity of like it's anything in alignment is in divine service. Just because lots of people think something is good or bad or right or wrong, it doesn't mean it is. It's purely our unique resonant connection to that form and our ability to work with it in the most aligned and optimal way. Hence, like everybody gets to eat and choose what they want to eat and like hi. World events are inspiring me. Yes, Kurt Mill. Oh, right on, my friend. I'm going right back up to if you're seeking pattern or not. Yeah, patterns are just, it's like if you look at, the Earth's orbit, Earth goes round, we have patterns in the cosmos. And if anything, that's like another aspect that we might look at our little kind of personal patterns, but we don't realize that there's these greater patterns that are constantly in effect. That's part of another aspect of paradigm shift and moving into these new ways of being. It's that as a collective, instead of going, oh, astrology is poo poo bullshit, or intuition is just a bunch of female mumbo jumbo, that we're now moving into greater harmony of accepting these aspects. So having a deeper understanding of how astrology works and why it's useful to us, having a deeper understanding of how intuition works and why it's useful to us, and then integrating those aspects so that we can come into greater alignment as a whole. And that's kind of all it is. And there's no right or wrong, and there's no judgment. It's pure unconditional vibrashe. I know it so isn't. This chic astrologies. I want to say Shiki Libre doing astrology, so you have a new page. Yeah, there's certain behind the scenes tech stuff that's wanting to be worked out for All to Love as well. I must say, like, the density I'm feeling or reflecting back is just like the goo that's been rising up, the old density pattern that's been rising up for a few weeks now, definitely since like for around, like, no, I got back, and then I got back from Portugal, and then this whole month has basically, it's like highlighted in my awareness as well. Like I'm sure I read something like 4 weeks ago about how September might be a month in review as far as like a proper shifty month. So we've risen to certain heights with certain clarity and awareness and and then we'll biofeedback into the contrast. So a lot of the shits that I'm in right now in the feeling space are just old patterns, a lot of unworthiness and like just self-disgust and hatred and those sort of energies coming up to just be like, you're never gonna get where you're going, girl. Oh, 3 months feels like 3 years. Oh, time. And like, I can't even, I feel that in so many ways. And at the same time, it's like, I can't even contain in my awareness time making any sense at all. And like that's another aspect of this greater release of this pattern of like, oh my God, there's no going back. I've literally created this dynamic reality in my life where I'm just at the end of a cliff edge. That's it. There's nothing to go back to. There's only more leaps, and I'm kind of now surrendered to it, but sometimes I think these spaces in between the next leap, yeah, that makes sense as an analogy. Actually, before I take the next leap, all the fears that would hold me in this place that I don't want to be, they all come up to be like, and you're like, okay, I'll just take another leap. At the same time, you guys know on this same cliff edge, right? You guys know in this energy, it can be kind of exhausting. And this, you say 3 years, over 3 years in a way, like 4 years, 5 years. There's this, I feel like I've just been leaping from one cliff to another, to another, to another. And I'm kind of getting to the end of that as a pattern as well. And I'm mega broken and tired and still in the dark as far as like, well, now which way do I leap? Now which way do I go? Next month is a 4-month in astrology. Equals 1, 3 equals 1, 4. And is that something to do with structure? And well, and now, I mean, certainly, please feel free to share more around numerology and astrology, Kurt. So it's like the birthing of the truth. Like this is the new way of being. We're 12 and 3, by the way, over here. So this is like anchoring the truth of the beingness that we know that we're integrating, that we're creating, that we're manifesting in the world. And this is like the kind of collective dark night of the soul, which is why a lot of us are having to go into the dark goo of review, the residue, which kind of has been the theme of this year. We have to be able to clear out all the residue of old energy or default setting energy or base tone frequencies to start to really build from the new structure. And for some reason, 4, I'm thinking of like a double pillar, i.e. 1111. And I'm also thinking of like 4 of wands in the tarot, which is all about like stable foundations. Recurring dream from childhood, which is leaping off a cliff, it becomes a flying floating dream. Yeah, I often have that as well, Chris. As in, like, most of them I don't just like plummet. I'm not like, I fly, or certain things appear. Sometimes I do plummet into the depth of the ocean. But a lot of times when I jump, I take flight and either end up on a massive wave where I have to hold on to something to keep me stable, or kind of gracefully move down. Many years ago, when I was going through quite another big transformation before the yoga career took off, I viscerally felt that my tummy actually dropped. So I had the vision, and I was like holding on to the cliff edge. It was, I had much less awareness of what I was doing back then, but I just sat in meditation and I saw myself kind of like holding on to this cliff, and like the inner being or higher self or does, or just let go. So I like if you're like gripping onto a cliff edge, you have to kind of like push it off of it. So in the meditation, that's what I did. I like pushed off, and then I fell, and I felt my stomach drop. So like, yeah. So I feel that Yeah, I don't really have falling dreams as much anymore. I have floating or flying. I don't know if I'm saying that. I'm not as clear today. Numerology for us, numerous stability, focus, endurance, grounding, structuring, anything steadfast. Its negatives tend to be tradition and safety at the expense of growth. Well, I could safely say that I'm not there. As in, it's almost like my respect for tradition. We have respect for discipline and tradition as a springboard for a broader, greater aspect of stability, focus, endurance, grounding, and structuring. It's like I don't think you were here for this part of the share, but I was saying how intuition is guiding me like away from the yoga industry, and as far as like me being a yoga teacher. And like that feels uncomfortable in some ways because that's been my kind of life and security blanket for the last 10 years. And now there's like so in my personal beingness, that tradition of yoga has absolutely created this stability in me as a person. But for my bigger life path or just broader life expansion into online entrepreneurship with All to Love, I'm being asked to shed that. It's almost like energetically intuition knows I can't do both. I can't continue to pioneer this work that I'm doing here now and, have my hands in awareness in the yoga industry, be a yoga teacher and play all that. The two don't work. So the focus and the endurance and the grounding and the structuring are ultimately, and now like, thank you, because you're helping me be aware of this. I'm like, all of these last few months and year has been that shift ultimately. God, I haven't even been able to sort of realize this fully. It's been like letting go of that. Yeah, basically divine sight. It's helping people understand their emotions from the perspective of the fearless life, in essence. That's legit true. This is all I talk about, really. And I think because I move quite fast in life, I've always assumed everybody else does, and we're right there together, but we're all so unique and different. And this is part of me making manifest online world, is that it's global. There's people all over the world who are going to resonate and understand. And then, the teaching. And I have to let go of a career path, essentially, and then move into this one fully. It's just that the way all of our patterns crisscross, and there was little ones and big ones and it's all, intellectually speaking, it's a great head fuck. It's a lot of fuckery in the headspace because none of it's linear. You're having to look at how everything connects and then assess it from past patterns as well, because everything's here now. Oh my God, I'm just thinking as well. I had the most profound, some of you guys mentioned in the last few weeks, some of the goo and density is to do with karma. And this is clearly something that was in me, but I have been denying it. And it's connected to like the false patriarchy. And I've done a lot of work on the false matriarch and hence the divine feminine. Crisscross makes you jump. Oh, thank you, Chris. That's made me feel real good. Yes, Kurt, 100%. I'm all in alignment with that. Tradition without flexibility is like it's like knowing. It's like knowing without flexibility. I know. It's like, do you though? Or maybe there's a little bit of room for that knowable circle to like make changes, living structure that you guide by. You're on it, dude, for sure. Lori, yep, this is it. And this is this transition from the year of truth and authenticity that we're like, oh wait, who am I really though? So hence we have to restructure our foundation from this transition of I'm not that, I'm this, I'm not that, I'm this, I'm not that, I'm this. And then we're like, oh, I'm definitely not this. So that we can lay an actual stable foundation from our own personal authenticity and truth, and then come together with all much more stable foundations to build a new structure that's based in harmony and co-creative sharing of resources, essentially, right? Just when it comes to my work life, so scared of changing jobs. I know I'd benefit from it. Oh, you shall. Just keep showing up here, my friend. All of us here will nudge you. Like you guys nudge me, to keep showing up. Like I'm sure more than one of you were like, you'll be back doing the live shares. I'm like, yeah, I know I can't stop myself. But here in the here now, here I am coming to this recognition that I'm like, oh, this is it. This is my work. and it's important for me not to be distracted thinking about to go teach a yoga class, or that I've got so and so blah 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 other things to do. But again, it's not necessarily obvious because of the way we've been indoctrinated to work in that regard. Makes sense. Starting a new life next month, total restructure. Yeah, and that I truly believe that, and a lot of astrologers have reflected this back to me. Our Gregorian calendar isn't necessarily spot on. And the 2020 astrology is now making manifest. Before 2020 actually hits the calendar, we're living in. We're living now. We're moving into the 2020 astrology, which of course is a 4, which means we've been restructuring, and now we're like laying down the pillars and going, okay, let's start building from here. But this month, I was not expecting this month. I'm over it. Like, that's a collective thought, and I don't mean it when I say it, but like, I want to die. That's what I just heard. And my mom, like, I just want to die, just so ready to just be over. But then you guys get this with the empath community, or like the light work community, or like that's part of this inner burden that so many of us are like, ugh, of like most of my life just being like, I don't know how to be here. I don't know how to survive here. I can't make it work. I can't and like, ugh, have been hell. Grr, no shit. But we know this as well, is that, I mean, yeah, on so many levels, it's maybe felt like hell or been like hell. And then on so many other, it's been like the legit awesome high vibration life manifestation of like little sprinkles of feelings coming in that are like, damn, yeah, this is life. Like, this is it. This is how it's gonna feel and live. And then I get reminded of like, fuck, there's so many like factors I can't control, and so many unknowables coming in, and blah 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 blah, blah. And all that we have to do is trust that it's all in the benevolence of the divine soul. Like, everything that's coming in is truly what we've asked for on the highest level. So that we can continue to lead by example, because that is our function. To be the change we wish to see in the world. And we are already that. Oregon bangles today. Ooh, baby, that sounds great. That sounds really tasty. I have Oregon like all over my bedroom, under my bed, in the cupboard beside my bed, and then diagonally across as well in my what's it called? Closet. That's what it's called. But Oregon bangles sound quite cool. I could try to sell them to more people as more of the 5G crisis makes its way through the media. We are all coming out of the other side of crisis. Love and power is flooding in now. Thank you for that share. By mid-century, as we move away from rigid jobs and schedules into our space where Earth time is less relevant. Nice one, Kurt. Yeah, see, Kurt, I really value your perspective. I know you are here intermittently. I feel like your intuition is spot on, actually, around some of the more obvious physical changes that are taking place for this generation. I really do feel you on the leading edge of a generational um, shift for us, and that would make sense being in this community. You asked about. Can I just check out for a while and come back to my body later? Oh, there it is. That divine side. That is like often the feels that I've had throughout my life. I'm just like, I just need like a break from life. Like, yeah, I just need to not be living in this body. I need to not be crammed into this little fucking meat suit for like, well, hence some of my escapist tendencies. Which, yes, I'm seeing them clearly now. Thank you. Anyway, love the Oregon. Tested my house. Interesting. This will be useful as we continue to share, you guys. Is life path number by adding all your dates? Yeah, I think it is. But it's hard to navigate my strengths and challenges with being ahead of myself and the world. Trust me, dude, I know that. This is part of, I think, resonating in this sort of community online. It's integrating a, for lack of a better expression, a kind of soul tribe that does understand and can assist and guide one another by asking questions, by supporting in the feeling intuitive capacity and knowing beyond the physical 3D. So I'm pretty sure my my number is 11/2 because 1 and 1 is 2. But I've always been told that when you're in 11, you're both. Because it's April 5th, 1982. Nine and then 19, 10 and 10. So yeah, 9 and 2 is 11. So I'm a 6 life, 9 expression, 11 soul urge. Oh man. I'm looking forward to like more of our sessions, you guys. And like meeting. And here's the thing about like aligning it with the online life is like, oh God, I'm like feeling into the freedom piece right now. You can think of double numbers as doubly emphasizing a certain number's quality in the sum of those numbers. Yeah. That's my address. What, 1106? 6 and 9. 11 is soul urge. Interesting. I found someone named Tania Gabrielle. I quite resonate. She's quite positive in her, and she does the numerology stuff, and she's like, check out your whole. It's more than just like the number. Because many years ago, and this is again another potential pattern. Oh, you follow her, sweet. So it was like one of those situations where I was really beginning to learn about like psychic attack and like people having the potential to like really kind of traumatize you with their words in spiritual language and community. And yeah, somebody impacted me quite powerfully, and it was an astrologer slash numerologist who, all I can say was the experience was I could not stop crying, and I eventually had to do a hardcore. This is the first time in my life. It was back in 2011, I think, or 2012. I could not stop crying, and I felt clouded and surrounded by black smoke and fog and tar, and I felt so burdened. And it was the first time just intuitively where I got some sage or something and loads of crystals, and it was like, get away from me, like that energy is not mine, that's not mine. And then shortly after, somebody explained to me that like people can put shit on you basically. So for you, that's double emphasis on 1, the number of self, strength, independent, but it funnels into 2, meaning those qualities must start partnerships and intimacies. That makes sense to me, Kurt. And I do feel like that's quite a massive thing for creation as well. And that makes sense for the turning point in life right now, as far as, hey, Chica, are you going to work? Yeah, okay. I'm going to wrap it up. Basically, what you're highlighting is the partnerships and intimacies, because now I'm moving into real partnerships in business, and I'm having to be really, really honest about looking at my intimate relationships and friendships and romance. So I will enjoy sharing that journey with you guys. So really nice constellation here this morning. I appreciate you guys being here. Always do. You guys know that, right? Yeah, this is definitely co-creation. The large majority, if not all of you who appear here in harmony, are leaders in your own communities. And I can feel and sense intuitive biofeedback of how we can all continue to assist one another as well. That makes perfect sense. At my 19 is, number 2 is the number of service. So it's like I essentially have dedicated my life to that. And you guys are helping me make sense of it all. No, Chris. The energy felt a bit frenetic to me as well, so I'm not sure if that's actually going to come in. There might have been enough support just in the sharing and in the love here, so who knows. Yeah, keep up your awesome work, everybody. As always, thank you so much for being here. Yeah, that's right. Do you? Yeah, maybe that was, see, that's why I didn't get like I don't know. It didn't make much of an impact for me. It was just like, if people want to reach out, they can. I'm not, I wasn't terribly triggered by the trauma either, although we wouldn't be necessarily, because we're holding space for all of that anyway. I love you guys. Think in time we will have I've already discussed this with some of you, but having moderators and basically just making sure that our beautiful high vibrashe exchange isn't tampered with by the haters on the internet. Anywho, you guys, I got to go. The day in my household is beginning, so mega power, mega love to all. I'm aware of my cleavage, so I'm just like, oh. Virtual hugs, you guys, virtual hugs. I mega appreciate all of you so much. There's such a strong community here. So have a beautiful day, you all, and I look forward to speaking to you tomorrow. Take care. Oh, and tomorrow is the new moon, so let us prepare. Let us get our notes together and intentions to set for this glorious, glorious day ahead. I love you guys. New beginning, new cycles begun. Peace out. Hi, Chica. Hi.